I don't think you've probably ever heard anybody, talk about things in this way. I mean, this is a completely different viewpoint than you're going to read in any book that ever comes out of any HR department, trust me. So what we have here is basically this concept of neurodiversity. And neurodiversity, in a nutshell, is the idea that the human brain, just like any other part of the body, can be different in its shape and the way it's wired between all of us. Which certainly makes sense. If every other part of our body can be different, why can't the most complex part of our body be different between each other? But because of the different ways that it's shaped and that it's wired, it's just like taking a piece of silicone and shaping and wiring what they put on it differently. And you'll end up with maybe a RISC chip and you'll end up with an Intel. They process differently. They're both chips, they're both processors, they both do functional things if you talk to them the right way, but they're very different in how they do those things. So if we were to take and just make this big old fluffy cloud out there and say that those little black marks are that is the sum total of every way that any human could ever think and process. And then we go and run some fancy, algorithm on it that's probably up on Azure, and we could just shove it right in right away. And put some grouping in there, and what we would find out is there's a large majority group that tend to process in a very similar manner. And those we call neurotypicals, which also is often referred to as NT, which happens to also match with non-tech. So there's a reason there. And neurotypical is the name for it. It doesn't mean that they're special. It doesn't mean that they're unique. I mean, there's nothing wonderful about them other than saying it's similar to saying Caucasians are the majority of Americans. These are the majority of humans. It's just, that's all you're saying. It's a group. Anybody who thinks differently from that falls outside of that red region and is what we refer to as neurodiverse. Now, there are some groups in neurodiverse, and some of those groups in neurodiverse have names. And some of them have names like autism and ADHD. But lots of them don't have names. They're just personality traits. But they're different than the big majority of people. And for the most part, as tech people, we live outside of the red circle. We think differently. That's why we can do the jobs we can do. We can visualize the stuff that doesn't exist yet. And that's why the people that we're trying to communicate with can't get what we have in our heads. So all I really wanted you to get out of this concept here is humans have a whole range of ways that their brains can process things. There's a huge group that we just call typical that happens to be the group that we're really talking about wanting to talk to for the most part. And the further apart you are between them, the harder it is to have a conversation with them.